Let me tell you two areas where I see for founders suffering from a lot of fear. Number one, clearly they're not executing at 100% or 90% at work. But the other one is at home, because then they drag that into the house as well, right? Oh, for me, my wife would say, "Stop it. You're not our manager." And I would stop and go, "Sorry, sweetheart, you're right." Because I just went in and do this to the kids.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the Fearless Founders. Today, we're going to talk about why we named our podcast Fearless Founders. Benoy, how are you?
I'm great. I love these. This is so fun. Yes, we're going to talk about this. What else? What else,
So,
Ike?
before we start, Benoy, tell us what you did before recording this and where you were calling from, because your background is different today.
You sneak. It's because I I just landed in Costa Rica. I'll be working here for 2 weeks, and part of the payoff, I guess, after all these years,
Yep.
is being able to choose certain environments, right? And thank goodness for remote and virtual and video. And so I've got surfing in the morning, work during the day. So, and a great wife who will support me in this. So that's
There you go. There you go. Nice.
that's key. Right?
Cool. So let's talk about why fearless founders. And I think there's a double meaning there with the fearless and fearless. I want to dig into that a little bit with you. And you've certainly developed a superpower. Whenever you listen to a conversation, a founder, you've done this with me so many times, that you can smell the fear. Like tell us about that. Like why are we naming our podcast Fearless Founders, and what's the smell about?
If you don't mind, just give it that one example back at your last company of one situation. Come on, 'cause everyone.
So many. Okay, I'll give you only one. No, I bootstrapped the company for 7 years, and then the investors come, the VCs, and the first thing is, Ike, you need to build an elite executive team, and that will help you scale this thing. Like even if that like I don't know what I'm like, I need these people. Like that's the perception. So I go on a hunt to find these extraordinary people, and I find them. These people have scaled many companies. They are very experienced. I'm talking about CFO, CTO, CRO, like the first time ever the company is hiring these. And they are they're experts in their fields, right? And I left them alone, and I gave them the free will to do whatever they want, because I had the fear that they are more experienced than me. They know what they're doing, so they must execute better than I could. I never had the courage to give them feedback or coaching. What I didn't understand at the time is these are great people. They have great accomplishments, but they've never built FSoft. They've never started FSoft. They've never been in the trenches talking to customers as many times I did. I've been talking to the customers for this specific problem for 20 years, even though I started the company, 7 years prior, right? But I couldn't bring myself to give them the feedback and tell them this is how this company operates. And they have been trained on all the other companies that they've been successful, right? And it's nothing right or wrong, but I was the one that responsible to tell them this is how we're going to do it at this company at this time that I've started it. But I was full of fear as a first-time founder at the time. So there's your first example.
Wow. See, and that's why both of us, we agreed that this was going to be the Fearless Founders um, podcast. And like you said, this fear that, oh no, oh, I won't make the right decisions, right? At the same time, I am capable. I'm capable of building something that is unique and different, which is why I'm giving my whole soul and my family's budget, everything, we're going to go into it. And that's why you named it. And for the listeners, if you remember, I do 360 reviews, and I remember them saying, "When are we going to get direction?" Because we were sold on Ike, right? And it is such a common element that keeps recurring that the fearless leader wants to grow the business, gets the right team together, and then abdicates the role, the leadership role. And they're the ones saying, so where are we going? How are we going to make it succeed? Which way do we go? And they want it. And just so you know, Ike, everywhere I go, I see this happening regularly in differing levels of abdication. Some a little bit, some complete, some whatever. And which is why we named this the Fearless Founders podcast. We have an extraordinary goal. We're going to change the world in whatever little vertical or market size, but nobody banks and gives you money for a small idea. They give you money for a big idea.
Yeah.
And the mere fact that sometimes you could even say that when you start off, that's the smallest risk. there's nothing.
Yes.
You're not proving anything. You don't have people's payroll lives on hand. You don't have some board member yet putting pressure on you. It's fine. So back to the why. It's because we've seen, you and I have seen, and I continue to see that in many cases, leadership, revenue stalling, product development being delayed, customer success being botched, every element of the human chain of command has some element of a person's past running a story through the head saying, what if this doesn't work? Or
Yeah.
I'll do whatever they say, or I'm not going to listen to whatever and I'll just do it my way. They're all baggages, stinky bags over the shoulder that people bring into the company, and you can't sniff it out enough. You just cannot.
Yeah.
So
Just so our audience understands, everybody has fears. We are specifically focused on helping first-time founders here, but the CFO, CTO you bring has their own fears. The employee you hire at the customer success department has fears. Your investor has fears.
yeah.
Right. So this is a regular human condition. But if we can help founders recognize that they are acting out of fear at that moment, that's 50% of the problem, right? Then we can work on fixing it, right? The recognizing it is the first one. So, Bino, you give us a few real life examples.
Sure,
that
absolutely.
you faced.
Yeah. And you said at the start, I seem to have a superpower for detecting fear. It's because I am the one that has the most fear. And I have spent years, decades working on myself that I can immediately see in that other person me. So it's easy for me to, oh, I know why he's saying that. Oh,
Good.
I know why he's doing that. because it's easy to see. It just, you can spot it. Yeah, like we talked about it. If you spot it, you've got it. If you can spot that behavior,
Yeah,
you've got
I
it.
love it. Yeah.
Because you're familiar with what's going on. And go, yep, I get it. I see it. I'll tell you, I just got off multiple coaching sessions just in this last week. I'll give you two. One company is at 100 million, and one company is less than 5. The less than 5 million company has 2 partners. In fact, both of them have partners. And the 2 partners in the smaller company said to me, hey, we're thinking of having a more strategic allocation of our time. And so our small team at the office, we're worried that if they don't see us in the office, they'll worry that we're just golfing, that we're not putting intensity and we're not carrying the load. Conversely, they're also thinking that if we're not in the office, they're going to slack off. And the other partner said specifically, how can we manage the optics when we communicate to the team that we are going to have a unique and a different role that isn't in the office? And I just said, hey, great topic. I'll tell you right now, you're reeking of fear because you're ultimately worried about how you're being perceived. That's a story. You're also worried about whether or not you not being in the trenches will result in less performance. And your value is tied to performance and being seen as a leader. There's so many topics we can talk about when it comes to fear, but and they went, you're right. I said, why couldn't you, if you were completely fearless, if you couldn't lose, what would you say? Could you say something like this? Hey, gang, we're going to double, triple the revenues. In order for that to happen, he's got to do this, I've got to do that. The different roles than what we've done. We're going to invest in you and train you so that some of you who want to aspire to be at a higher level, we can get you up there. But we're going to change the dynamics of how we function. And the indicator that it's working is when the revenue numbers start going in that trajectory. You guys game? And they went, oh. they realized how much of a spiral they were in, right?
Yeah.
The $100 million company, 2 partners again, said last week, within the week, it was last Wednesday, said, could you come into our staff meeting because you've been coaching us, but we don't know how to coach the executives. We don't know how to manage and help them. And one of the funny guys said, yeah, could you be our Yoda in that room?
Yeah. I'm laughing because I've been in that situation before.
Yeah, you understand, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately I said, and I reminded them, and you remember this formula, this sequence left to right that says UI, unconscious incompetence, is how we're automatically programmed, goes to CI, conscious incompetence, being conscious of your incompetence. And that's when you said, if you're self-aware, that's 50%. I'd say it's even 70% of the problem. If you can catch yourself being incompetent, leads to consciously acting competent, CC. And then the last one being UI, UC, unconsciously competent.
Yeah.
You want to go from UI to CI to CC to UC.
Yeah.
That's what
We definitely need to do an episode on that one.
Yeah, there's a whole
Yeah.
So long story short, imagine this, and this is why I do what I do. Imagine the CEO has the most influence on the culture and the performance attributes. If that person is fearful, then more likely that you're going to have a dysfunctional family, professional family. Because each one already in the org chart of unconscious incompetence, each one has it, they're going to be already projecting their own instance of worry for what the CEO is going to say, and then the directors and then the managers. It's really a waste of resources, a waste of time, waste of energy, right? That's why this Fearless Founders podcast is. We're here to help people look, hey, these are the elements. that you need to keep an eye out
Mhm.
for. This is why the speakers are on. They know what's going on, and will always highlight, hey, did you notice that this person was in fear mode? And in a perfect world where you couldn't fail, I believe that people would act with so much more accuracy, speed, confidence versus the current, oh, what if it's the wrong call? What, right? What if
Yes.
if I look weak in front of the board or in front of my new executives who are older, more experienced than I am, and you're paralyzed, or you create a story and you abdicate your role?
I want to make sure our fearless founders recognize you said something very tiny, but it has huge implications. What if you couldn't fail?
Mm,
Like, I think that's so important. Like, these days, when I meet a first-time founder, I use this technique. I said, look, your next startup will be a great one. So that you don't have to worry about all the mistakes you're going to do on this one, because if you don't make them on this one, the next one is not going to be successful. So move fearlessly, like doesn't matter, just move forward. The next one is a billion-dollar company, just to put them into the frame of mind that whatever you're doing right now, this business, it could be a billion-dollar business. Maybe it will be sold for $10 million, maybe 100. It doesn't really matter. If you can eliminate the fear that anything that you're doing here is going to devastate you and then you are going to fail, is the wrong approach, because that's what I've been using lately. And you also said like something about like what is the board gonna think. I have a great story on that one.
mm,
The 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 CFO I hired, the one I said very experienced, knowledgeable. He's great. He just came on board at the time. This is 2017. At the time, we are like maybe $3 million ARR, long way from $20 million. $3 million. We don't even know what it is because we haven't been measuring it. So we're like, we have. He's teaching me a lesson on all the ARR retention and all this stuff, right? Like, I'm going through an education session. I'm soaking it all in because I'm a learner. Anyway, I said, look, we need to do this. We need to do this. We need to show this in the board meeting for our investors. And then it's like, he goes, Ike, we're not doing this for the board. We're doing it for the business. So we can run the business efficiently, not to show it to the board.
mm,
At the time, I had just had these investors come in for the first time, right? Series A after 7 years, like I said. And I'm like, I am I'm in the mindset of they are the owner of the company now, and then I have to prove to them, and I need to show them, prove them how I'm doing and how the company is doing. It's that's also a fear, the stories that I created in my mind.
yeah.
And that clicked with me so well, like from the rest of that time. Said, okay, never, like, what is the right thing for the business? And that's the decision I'm making. What's the right metrics, the KPI I'm going to measure to manage the business properly for the operational excellence? That's what I focused on. But it was a great moment of realization for me that the fear I have with the board at the time.
It's so true. Right now, I have another um, uh, president who is says I can do anything, but anytime it's in front of the board, I'm not as comfortable and confident.
Yeah.
He is valuing them a higher level than necessary. He has already made himself less than, and so I'm working with him to fix this, right?
Yeah.
Because he truly believes it and says no, and he knows, but he just can't help being automatically programmed. Let me tell you two areas where I see for founders suffering from a lot of fear. Number one, clearly they're not executing at 100% or 90% at work. But the other one is at home, because then they drag that into the house as well, right? Oh, for me, my wife would say, "Stop it. You're not our manager." And I would stop and go, "Sorry, sweetheart, you're right." Because I just went in and do this, do this, do this to the kids. And why isn't the house clean? And whatever. And it was nothing to do with the cleanliness as it was that I needed to control the outcome like I control at work. It's a horrible way to be a parent and a dad and a husband. Leading to, even subsequent to that, I see a lot of founders not managing their health because they're so consumed by having to prove, you're smiling, so consumed at having to prove, you got to tell that story, because they'll do anything to prove that their professional baby is going to be fine, and they'll sacrifice themselves in order to get there, which means they also neglect their relationships at home and kids and whatever, but they're neglecting themselves. But you smile first, please.
I'm not telling the story again. I just told you about the never-ending cough in the previous episode.
That's right.
As you know, I didn't have time to take care of my health.
Yeah, we do, all of us. And I currently have one CEO. I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "What?" I said, "Look, we talked about the fact that I'm allowed permission. You gave me permission to inquire about everything around your life, not just work and all that you have to do. You've got really, really tired eyes. You're always yawning. And maybe we need to meet in the morning. It's not making any difference. You're still yawning. You're still tired." So I said, "Would you consider going to see a doctor for a full physical?" And he just turned 40. He came back, still 39 at that time, and goes, "Oh man, I'm so glad you told me to go see him. I have low testosterone, so low that I'm barely registering." I said, "Dude, you're only 39 years old. I'm so glad you went. I'm so glad for you." He had to take testosterone hormone replacement, whatever, TRT.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you see him, "Oh, I can
Nice.
think clearly."
I love it.
It's not a fog anymore, right? But it's a go, 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 push, 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 push. Again, another manifestation of, in this case, amplified by physical issues.
Yeah.
But that's what founders do. They give everything they can to go towards the end goal because their value is on the line. Their value is tied to the end goal, to their name, to their reputation, to the product, to the investment that has been made. That's a lot of pressure.
Yep. So you said that was another manifestation of the fear. Like, what other behaviors you've seen that they demonstrate at the company or outside that gives you some clues?
Oh, too many. I'll point to one. One example with me was I was a CEO and I had a very talented VP of sales, very, very fast and funny. He was a stand-up comedian, and he was just brilliant, handsome, dashing. But he was so, for me, instead of addressing the core issue, all I did was I just got angry. And one day he was sitting in my office couch. He was sitting down and I was pacing back and forth. And he said, "Why are you always angry at me?" So sad that, and I felt, and I said, "Because you always focus on being liked instead of doing the right thing and holding your salespeople accountable. You always want to be liked, but you don't want to get the results because you don't want to disturb your relationship." I said in frustration. And he was quiet. But it wasn't his fault. It was my fault. I was not able to get the best out of this talented person because I was frustrated that my control of the company and revenue of all things was at the helm of this man who wanted to be liked. Because he's a comedian, he puts on shows and things on the side, right? And yet, as a leader, that's a terrible way to lead, a poor form of communication, right?
Mhm.
We always mad at him. So, a couple of years later, I ran into him at the airport. It just happened to be. I said, "Hey, I have to apologize to you. I'm a newer, better person, I hope." I said, "Do you remember this incident?" He goes, "No." "Do you remember me being angry?" "No." He was very gracious. I said, "Well, I was. And so please forgive me for being such an idiot, for being so fearful." I had to apologize. Felt better, but there's so many ways that fear pops up rather than being able to lead with accuracy. We create whatever is actually happening, we distort it and make it into some other story of what's happening, right? I've had a
Mhm.
CEO last 2 weeks. "Look at this stupid text. Look at this text." And I said, "So what happened?" Because da 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 da. I said, "What happened?" The text. "Oh, so you got a text?" And he goes, because he knew. "So what really happened?" "I got a text." "Okay." And then you created a story, right?
Yeah.
And completely derailed the competent, powerful leader in him because he went off emotionally. And the sender may have had completely different motives, but he came back with a story. "What an idiot."
Yeah.
So many things where it pops up: managing the board, managing the executives, managing customers, not having hard discussions, difficult conversations early and quickly. That's one of the biggest ones.
Tell us more about that. I think if I remember correctly, you call that stinking fish. There's a stinking fish in the room.
Oh, you remember that? Yeah.
Yes, of course. Tell
Uh,
tell us. You give the first time founders a little bit more like the tools that they can use to,
oh,
recognize and maybe overcome a little bit.
yeah, because we're trying to keep this version short. Let me give you it as fast as possible.
Sure, sure.
What I've learned over time is that people invariably um, do not want to be unliked. It's just a natural. We were taught as kids, be nice, don't say rude things. It's better to keep quiet than to say something mean. Zip your
Mhm.
lip. All of these things come in, and so it's very unnatural to be clear, concise, accurate in addressing people. And so invariably, people, leaders, CEOs, everyone skirts around the issue. They don't approach it quickly. And it keeps manifesting in different ways. Like, well, have you had that conversation? Nah, nah. The wife just had surgery. This actually came up. And so there's always a reason to defer it. And that's why I'll come up with this analogy of I smell stinky fish. We still haven't absolved the issue. We're skirting. You say you addressed it, but I still smell a stinky fish problem. The root cause hasn't been addressed. Again, we do not want to be disliked. For the more popular you learn that in high school, junior high, the more valuable
Mhm.
you are, right? And so I want to be able to. One CEO says, "I'm having a stand-up meeting, but I don't have anything positive to say." I said, "So?" He goes, "Well, I got to have something positive to say." "Are you saying that you're only going to give them good news or have stand-up meetings, all hands meeting with good news only?" Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You give the
See,
bad news and let them fix the problem so that your next meeting can be good news. If
there
it,
you go. There you go. There you go. This is a long-term issue. We will never be completely eradicated from fear. But if we catch ourselves, and the tool that I share with everyone is just count to three. Before you do your normal reaction, count to three in case there could be a more powerful response. Don't react, respond. And if you just count to three, it just allows you to just go, I'm feeling irritated again. I'm gonna, it's me. It's not about him, it's me. It's me not feeling good enough, strong enough. So that's what I've learned over time. And we want to approach this topic multiple times from different angles. Like we need to, in order
Yeah,
for us
agreed.
to
Agreed.
really flourish, right? We're gonna have other guests who are experts on this, but we got to get into this deep. So
Yeah, I'll say one. I'll add one more thing to the reaction versus response.
yeah,
One of my friends and first time founder was having that. Like he didn't believe. He thought that giving an answer to a question as fast as possible was the best thing for his employees. So he prided himself coming up with the answer as quickly as possible, rather than 1, 2, 3. Let me think about this strategically. Who's this person in front of me? What is their situation? What is the background story about what they're telling me?
yeah,
Where am I today? What is my situation? Assess the situation and then give a thoughtful response. So he wouldn't believe me. So I made him count how many times he gave reaction versus response. And at the end of the week, he came to me like he was devastated because he realized he's not being thoughtful. When somebody comes and asks guidance, instead of giving them a thoughtful response, he realized most of the time he was just responding and just giving them something and then sending them away. Don't get me wrong, in a startup world, no decision is the worst enemy, right? You have to make a decision and move forward. And even if that's wrong, you get to correct that and later on. But delaying the decision just because you don't have all the 100% of the data is not good. But response versus reaction is not that.
correct. Well done. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. In the long run, we have you not noticed older people, they seem to take a long time to respond. They're very measured in their cadence of the words. They seem to do this, then they will answer. And they seem to be always that much wiser. And you go, wow, that's deep. If we could
Well, as the HR department here, I think you meant experienced people with
That's-
more scars.
That's
So you
right.
can be 22-year-old and you can still be
That's right.
experienced, not old.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely correct. You got it. I think that we have to visit this topic multiple times,
Agreed. Agreed.
including my formula for effectiveness. We'll share it. We want to get people on board, let them know what's happening, right? So this is good. Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Hopefully you had a glimpse of why we call our podcast Fearless Founders. There's so much to dig in here, but we want to give you an overview. We will have guests about this topic as well. And as you can see, this branches off to so many areas, and we'll be addressing all of those. Please stay tuned and come back and visit us again. Thank you.
See ya. Bye.